I mean, ultimately, that's in terms of where I think National needs to take it. I think we do need to have some sort of decision helping or assisting tool, and we've looked at a conceptual level something like a database or something that you go through and you sort of say, well, you know, what's the flow rate, what's the catchment type, and all that sort of stuff, and you know, basically a selection thing, and ultimately it gets you down to a range of products that, you know, sort of have met the conditions and have gone through some sort of assessment process. I'd also be very interested, you know, from a perspective of National about, you know, sort of, and it comes down to making sure that the whole industry is kept accountable. If there are things out there where, you know, sort of things are not quite what they seem and everything, that's something that we need to know about so we can actually deal with it as we move forward. So from a National perspective, I'm always open to hearing about that too, and I think that's really, because it's collectively in all of our interest to know what's going on there. And part of the way that we're going to have to approach it from the National perspective is there is going to be some of that stuff there that in the marketplace people do have to differentiate themselves. They've got to have something that stands them apart. If you're buying sort of, you know, brown boxes, you know, there's only so much you can do with brown boxes. So I think we have to get the balance between understanding what is required from a marketing perspective and what's required from a technical perspective. But you look at the motor industry or something, there's so much variation and everything out there. But there's some things when you want to go and buy a car and you want to know how fast it can accelerate. Well, there's some specific numbers you can question and you can ask, and we have to get that balance right. So differentiate between what the manufacturers, suppliers need to be able to go out there and do their job, but also what the users need.
One of the few to actually propose an actual structure and a process for the development of this protocol. Do any of the people on the panel actually have any problems or issues with the structure and process as Andy's put forward today? Tony?
It's nice to promote a particular process. If that process hasn't gone through a proper consultation method, I think, but also it's not just setting up a panel and getting approval.
Very well aware of that.
If I can finish. The issue for me is to make sure that the actual lines in the sand that you have to get over are well established. There's no point in saying 30% removal is okay and we agree to that if we haven't actually defined what 30% approval or 30% removal is. If we haven't defined, Shawnee and I were debating what is TSS the other day.
TSS, what is it?
Yeah.
What's TSS?
Well,
America's now going by suspended settlement.
I can tell you what TSS is. In the laboratory, TSS is whatever is suspended in the bottle minus any non-representative particles. So if you open up a bottle and see a leaf in the top of the bottle and the rest of it it looks colloidal, you remove the leaf out of the situation. There isn't a defined thing that says TSS is less than 5 millimetres or less than 1 millimetre, but there is a proper testing protocol to say if you want to measure TSS, this is the process to do it. And if we say TSS, we mean TSS as tested by a laboratory.
If I could just bring one of the other points that Andy made, was he made this call of ASAP. Everything is urgent. We need a solution now. There's been a lot of talk for many years in relation to developing this protocol. Before the respective managers of these proprietary companies go back to their bosses and say, I need some time and resources to invest in developing this protocol. If I was their boss, I'd be saying, give me a time frame, give me a deadline, and tell me exactly what you're going to achieve and when you're going to achieve it. Is there anything like that at the moment? And if there isn't, could we actually define a goal and a time frame today?
Okay, so let's put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay. So look, my starting point is it really comes down to what people are willing to put on the table to actually inform the way forward. So I think the starting point really, as I said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to work with this particular group and say what can we put together that we can bring to the broader industry in a time frame. Now, obviously, that puts the onus back on the people who have the best, the most vested interest in getting it right to move as quickly as they can, but also the process. We have to have some things in it so we don't get it frustrated and everything. So we'll have that discussion and we'll see how quickly we can move that. If we can move that quick enough, I'm actually looking to October when we have our national conference, and we can actually use that to actually, get a little bit of a focus and attention on that. So we're getting.
If I'm the big boss, I'm the person.
Yep.
I'm not concerned about starting points or processes or whatever. I want to know exactly when we're going to get this protocol. So I think, can I get some confirmation from this potential panel, at least all in Australia, that a protocol will be developed prior to October?
One of the key questions I'd ask as well is, what if we don't do it? What's it going to cost me if we don't do it? That's what they ask.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but can we get some sort of level of guarantee that we can get a protocol prior to October?
Well, that's the discussion that I want to have with these guys, and really it comes down to, I really want to have something that I can present in October that says this is where we've got to, and I'd hope that it would be saying it's actually something concrete, it's something definitive, and we can move forward with it, and that's really...
Let's not forget that the do nothing case is always a valid case.
That's right.
It can be a valid case. It's always asked. The question is always asked about the do nothing case. Okay. Why do we need to do something? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, sort of thing.
But it is broken. We need to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to prove that it is.
Andy, you want to make a comment?
I can't see any reason why we could be. I fully agree that we can get it done by October. We should actually be able to do it in 3 months. It's just a matter of keeping on the communication. We can get that first part of the process done. It is very, very simple. What we are talking about today has been done in America and in Europe, in Germany. It's been done all around the world. We're not guinea pigs. We just need to look at their process and implement it. Learn from their mistakes.
If I pose a question that's almost 360, you guys have a competitive advantage amongst the marketplace. You guys are the only ones, well, as far as I'm aware, the only ones that comply with the water guidelines and water guidelines. Are you nervous about the fact that, with this protocol, your position in the marketplace may change if your competitive advantage may be lost? No?
We're actually welcome the protocol.
Yeah.
We're talking about, you can't just, Joe Blow walk up and test a device. There's a certain amount of expertise involved. We welcome a protocol. We welcome the idea of field testing. We welcome the idea of nutting out all the nuts and bolts. I don't think it's as simple as taking the protocols from the United States and using them. They don't test for nitrogen. They don't look at it at all. So we're a little bit different.
Yep.
Can we learn from them? Absolutely.
Yep.
We need to be careful of the New Zealand context making the bar too hard, because what then happens to vegetated systems if we set it too high?
Yep.
It needs to be a balance. I personally don't think it's the manufacturers who will have the be-all and end-all solution. I think it's academics who have actually tested this stuff in the field. They've tested the vegetated systems. I think it's also some knowledge base from councils who will be very good in this process, and also consultants. Yes, manufacturers can have a voice in this process, but they shouldn't have the only voice.
Absolutely.
We're actually a really interesting point, and the point we need to be at this meeting. I did some work last year on actually doing a stock take of where we're at. We've put a lot of things together. So I spoke to manufacturers, put the guys around the table, regulators, researchers and users. And that's the 4 divisions that I made, like Andrew put up on the slide. Divide this a bit more if you want to. And they all have their different needs. So the really important point is to actually get all those groups sorted together and put it on the table and move it forward. I don't know that we have a whole protocol ready by October, but I would really love to see that we have that map in place and that whole process going. Because actually developing the protocol gets down to all the nitty-gritties that often the conversation gets into, which is those scientific bits and pieces, and they'll come out in the wash. What we really need is the system to take it forward. And when I was writing this report, the bit that's missing of it is that methodology. I agonised in Adelaide with my whiteboard as to what you should actually do. You take the standards road, Andy's put something on the table that looks like it was work. Will the rest of the guys accept that? Will the researchers like that? We don't know. So what we really need today is that agreement that we're going to work as a group to move forward. And that's what we really need to set up. But it's the steering committee of you guys to start it, or how we actually move.
Sorry, Jeremy Brown from Saw. It doesn't stop any manufacturer. I mean, look, to give you guys a bit of an indication, when we embarked on our testing, we were making no money. There was 3 of us. We had no staff. Now, we're not a Coombs or a Rockler, and we're at risk of this site not working. Now, it did, and it's robust, and yes, we're making some money now. But it's not, doesn't stop anyone from testing. Andy, you've got 7 sites. Good luck, mate. Get it done, and then come to the people that know what they're doing and say, look, I've done my study. What do you think? It doesn't stop anyone testing. If the data's good, and, you've got people like Tony Webber to review it and other people, If the data's good, the data's good.
You've got the other position where we've already done, the testing was done 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, great. Yeah, exactly.
Who do we give it to validate it? No one will either want. No one wants to read it. No one's qualified to do it. No one. Where does it go into to be assessed? It's as good as new stuff. So where's the mechanism in place to actually have that solidly assessed?
Do you say that what are we looking at, the water by design modelling guidelines? Do you have a product that you're trying to get approved and that people aren't reading the data?
Yes.
Well, gee, that is a good question. I mean, if you've got something that you want to try and get through those guidelines, then how do you take that? I mean, put it to the Stormwater Association, put it to an independent academic.
There's a lot of pre-existing stuff. The industry's been around for 20 years. There's a lot of data that's been based on.
Hang on, one at a time. Sorry, Charles.
Sorry, Jeremy, can you guys give some example of who you took it to, or who you
Okay.
approached, so just so everyone can
I'll let probably Mike Canner, he was more part of it, the process.
I'll pass it over. Mike, work.
Okay, if I've got this one. Bit of a background about what we did. 2004-5, we were involved in a literature review up in Cairns in the Highlands there in North Parliament, Queensland. We were basically the James Cook University literature review of all the technology available in Australia. They determined they wanted to use our particular technology for a site, and they embarked on a testing protocol, a field test with Queensland Department of Main Roads, it was called back then. So basically that study was done. We then looked to further expand that data set. We got QUT involved as a peer reviewer. We completed the study. This was way before the guidelines was ever there. It's about robust transferable data. We knew that regardless of whether the protocol exists, doesn't. Robust transferable data. We then looked to say, well, okay, we've got this 15,000 word study here. What do we do? The guidelines have now come out in 2010. We believe we meet all the guidelines, all the steps but the peer review and publishing. Is it a bad idea to have someone else look at your data and crawl all over it for 12 months? It's not a bad thing at all. It's the whole process that you have to go through.
That the only peer-reviewed path is through a journal. But there's many other opportunities to have your research peer-reviewed. And in the US, we've had our most recent product peer-reviewed under 3 different assessment groups and peer-reviewed by industry experts. And then that data has also been re-reviewed here in Australia.
I agree with what Jeremy and Mike are saying. The roadblock that I've had is actually finding someone who will peer review it. It's been a very difficult process.
Absolutely.
I have asked BMT-WBM to do it a few times, but they never can because of conflict of interest, right? I have found somebody. The other thing was, and it has taken me like a year and a half, the other thing is that I'm engaging with credible, very qualified professional universities who are completely independent, and then I get a council tell me that the university is not independent.
Absolutely.
They tell me that my professor is not independent.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make that point again that all that data is either meaningless or misleading. If it doesn't include rainfall data enclosed.
Fully agree.
Can I just make a comment on the issue of international data and know where Charles is coming from? That international data is quite useful. The work that I recently reviewed looked at some testing done in Florida, where the argument was put forward that the rainfall was similar to South East Queensland, and to be honest, there's not much difference. It's subtropical climate. The rainfall intensities were very, very similar to what we have here. The durations were similar. The degree of runoff was similar. However, the way the system was set up wasn't in accordance with what the design specifications actually said. So I'm happy to say, yeah, it's been tested under appropriate climatic conditions, but then if the actual testing itself had some deficiencies, then you've got to go back and say, well, is that appropriate? The next stage for me then is to say, is the runoff received by this containing an appropriate level of pollutants that's consistent with what we would see in Queensland, in New South Wales, in Australia? And the difficulty we have in transferring international data is that in the work that was done by Tracy Walker and Tony Wong on street sweeping showed that we have a finer particle size fractionation in Australian conditions for the most part. There are times when it doesn't, but for the most part we have finer, yes we do. And the issue also is that the road runoff, what is actually coming off that road runoff? Is the road runoff similar? Are we actually looking at roads that have been salted because of ice? Are we actually looking at roads that have a similar level of traffic intensity and so on? And there's a range of things that we can look at to actually say whether are these things consistent. And we can debate them, we can argue them, and I know Darren's going to call me up in a sec. But the issue for me is that how transferable is that information? Have we got the evidence to say that it's transferable? And if we have, we should give recognition to it.
So we have our data from that Florida study that you're talking about, compared with runoff concentrations from a site at Brisbane Airport and another site in Dalton. So, and those statistically compared and found to be statistically similar.
Yeah. So the roadblock actually is, it's not that we don't want to do field testing sites, it's that councils have got to be comfortable to let us, like say, have this site, you can test it, right? So what I'm asking for is that the international data, where it's already been tested overseas, is used as an assessment for an entry level to get us going. In the meantime, we've got to make money. Jeremy made a very valid point. 3 guys on the bones of their backside started a small business, went out and did testing, right? So if we can do the model that I put up, where it gives you a 3-year window, you can do X amount of installations or reach that time period, you can make some money while you're doing your testing, so it becomes more of an organically growing or funded exercise.
Andy, just on that, mate, you're proposing 45 sites per state. To give an indication, mate, we'd probably put 100 units in over the whole year. That's ridiculous. I mean, if we put 45 systems in per state, you've got, what, 250 systems on? What happens if they don't perform? Who is responsible then?
Yeah, that's a valid point, right? I just put a number up there because I'm trying to propose a roadmap.
Mate. If you put one site in and it's transferable, you don't need to put 20 in.
We're obviously just all potentially scratching the surface of this debate, but I'm an optimistic person. I see the silver lining in every great player. We've actually had a couple of good wins today, I reckon. I think Stormwater 360, amongst other construction devices, have committed to actually notify or advise Redland City Council and hopefully other councils about where the hell their various privately owned devices are. Is that correct?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, sure. I think that is an absolute win, so congratulations. The other thing, obviously, I touched the very poor slide early on today. Obviously, I wanted the forum to talk about these very issues, stormwater quality improvement devices. We were never going to develop the protocols today, but I really hope that we have set the platform or foundation. Excuse me, phone. So proud. We've hopefully set the foundation for Stormwater Australia to actually develop an appropriate national testing protocol. There's obviously a lot of devil in the detail. There's a lot of work to be done, but I really want to see this protocol up and running and in place before October. And Stormwater Queensland will be doing whatever we can to facilitate that. Obviously, it's not easy. Nothing worth doing ever is easy, but I really do think it's a real need in our industry. So I thank you all very, very much for attending today, and please join me in thanking the marvellous panellists we've had today. We've got birds all around, but yeah, look, thank you all very much for your time today. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it, and I hopefully see you at the next Stormwater Queensland Technical Event. So enjoy the rest of your day.